Oh my gosh, it is Paula Nirschl. Paula, I remember the first time we jumped on a coaching call, and I knew you were special from the minute I met you. You can just meet those people that are leaned in, that are hungry, that are coachable, and that like go take action. And that was you from the minute we met. I think I was one of your first coaches in mortgage, but it was
Mhm.
2013. And the coolest part about that moment is, when the student becomes the coach and then they become like Hall of Fame and then they become like world famous. That's what it's been for me watching you. Not only are you a top producer that's closed $50 million in business the last 2 years consistently, 23 and 24, you've had years well over 100 million many, many times, but you also run a great branch with a killer culture and a lot of people that are also successful in making President's Club. You serve your region at a higher level, but most importantly, you run Elevate Coaching inside of Guild Mortgage, which is just, I think, the most premier coaching company experience offering that any company anywhere is offering. And I give so much credit to you and your leadership and the way that you run the team and hold culture. So today I want to just dive into who is Paula, what is your story, and then how do you do $50 million in production a year with a small team while running these other jobs in your life? So thank you for being willing to be on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, how did going from being a college women's basketball coach and an athlete transition into becoming a successful salesperson?
I was in coaching in my early 20s, and when I got into coaching, I realized coaching was really about teaching. The best coaches are the greatest teachers. Well, I knew how to play. I was good at playing the game, but how was I going to teach and build a team and do all those things? And so what I did was I'd save my money because at that time I was working 3 jobs. I was a junior college coach to begin with, and then I ended up coaching at a Division I level. But I was coaching, I was training, and I was teaching college classes. And so I'd save my money up and I'd go to these big Nike clinics and I'd listen to the best of the best all over the country talk about teaching. And honestly, they taught me how to run a business because college basketball, and especially today, it is a business, right? And so all the things that we learn in mortgage, when we're learning about our thank you notes and our recruiting and our prospecting and teaching our potential clients on the process, all of that I learned through my coaching career. I mean, it really helped me come in, and I wasn't afraid of calling people. Like I know a lot of people have a difficulty with cold calling, and clearly in the beginning of your career, you got a cold call, right?
Right.
But I did it for 12 years. I had to recruit. So I was calling kids and talking to parents, and at times calling people when my program was horrible, like when I first took over and they were terrible. So I got a lot of no's, and I had to be strategic and come up with different ways to recruit people in when they were not coming because we were a winning program. You know what I mean? And that kind of
Yep.
reminds me, like when you're a loan officer in the beginning, you're kind of, you know what I mean? You don't have any accolades. You don't have anything to say, I've done this or I can do, and you don't even know what you're going to do anyway. So you're kind of going out there just winging it, but you have to believe in yourself, and you've got to believe in what you're doing and have a passion. And all of that helped me carry that over into my career.
So, in the beginning, as a salesperson, you obviously didn't have the fear of making calls. Was there a key focus that you had that helped you establish and become successful as a salesperson?
So I had a great mentor who was a friend of mine, Lori Hansen. And when I got in, it was, there weren't any systems, there weren't anything. They didn't train you on anything. Here's your computer, go get them, Tiger. But she said to me, Paula, you've got to get out there. And I actually had moved up here from California to Vancouver. So I knew nobody.
Wow.
I wasn't like, when I think of people in this industry and I'm like, look, if I can make it, you can. Most people are in areas where they grew up, they went to high school, they have friends, you know what I mean? They've got kind of a little built-in network. When I came to Vancouver, I knew zero, nobody. But what she told me was you can't leave on Friday until you have 3 face-to-face appointments. And I said, okay, who am I going to meet with? And so she told me the different people to call, you know? And so, I mean, literally, you know, you've read prospecting, you've been through core coaching, call 40 people, do all this. Literally, I built my business off 3 face-to-face appointments a week, being consistent. And the discipline came from being an athlete and being a coach. Like, you have to be disciplined if you want to make improvement, you know? So that's really all I did.
And your courage came from believing in yourself and having passion.
Believing in myself, being a little competitive, and failure is not an option. You know, I mean, this was it. So I had to make it work.
Why did you decide not to go back to coaching at this point? I mean, you're an athlete and now you're selling mortgages, and you're, you know, D1 coach, now you're selling mortgages. Was there always that in the back of your head? I might go back to coaching basketball, or what had changed?
What had changed was, you know, I'd been doing it for 12 years, and I got to, I mean, my last year of coaching, I got to coach at UConn, against UConn, one of the biggest games, you know. No, we did not win. Nobody won that year. But so I felt like I got to that place ultimately that I wanted to see, right? To be at that biggest stage. And my son at the time was, I think he was around 10, and he was struggling a little bit with ADD. And, you know, a lot of people work hard in mortgage, you know, but I'm going to tell you, there is nothing harder than being a coach, a college coach, because it never ends. Like, you know, you've got practice, and you've got coaches and teams, and then you're scouting, and then you're recruiting, and then you're watching film, and like, it just never ends. And so I, at that point, knew that I needed to be around my son more and help him. And I also, you know, wanted a career where, you know, as hard as I work, I can have my own success. Like, one thing with coaching college basketball, especially today, in today's world, is like, you just, loan officers think we don't have control. Yes, we don't have control of markets and all of that, but you don't have control when your star player goes down with an ACL tear and your season's done, right?
Right.
You don't have control over students that have just general personal issues that happen, you know, during those times in college, you know, that take them away. And you look at how coaches, and right now, especially we're in March Madness, how many coaches right now are being fired, you know, because of their win-loss record, right? So for me, when I was looking strategically long-term, I was like, I want to do something where eventually I can actually retire and do what I want to do. And at that point, even coaching that many years financially, I was not on track for, you know, retiring. So like, there was a lot of different reasons, but that's really ultimately what got me out of coaching.
I'm so happy you shared that part of your story, because I've never really sat with the challenge of being a college coach. I know one thing that's always stuck out to me was the fact that, like, you work so hard to build a team, and every year you're going to lose at least 25% of your players. Like, guaranteed, your best players and your seniors are gone, and you've got to bring in new people. And it's just like, nothing ever is stable. It's constantly changing, and adaptability. But also thinking about game film and studying and logistics, and you're traveling, and you've got the personal lives of your players and their grades, and then you got their parents, and then you're thinking about already next season when you're in this season. So I remember talking to a lot of people in 2023 and 2024, and there was a difference between the people who like rebounded quickly, recovered quickly, and didn't. And I really felt like it was definitely mindset, but it was perspective. It was maybe you've never really done hard before. Like, what is your version of hard? And, you know, my story, I was in network marketing. I was sleeping on an air mattress with 4 other people. I was cold calling out of the white pages and putting flyers on people's cars to like sell a pyramid deal. For you and I were like, this isn't that hard, you know? Have you gone back to think about that in the last couple of years, when, you know, your business goes from 170 million to 50 million, and the natural seeds of doubt seep in? Do you still have that perspective?
Yeah. And again, it goes back to when I was coaching. I mean, when I went to Concordia after Blue Mountain, I had, some really good players there. And then one of my past players who had gone to Alaska found out I got the job and she called me. Susie's like, Coach, I want to come, and so she came with two other transfers and we had a really, really super good team. But I get there and I go to our first open gym and we're not having practice. It was just open gym. I was just kind of evaluating. And our point guard, to be really good, if you have a good point guard and a great post player, you can go a long way, right? And we had both, and we had a lot more than that. But my point guard went down and she was going down the court. She didn't have anyone around her. And all she did was she looked to her right. She was going to pass over here. She crossed her body and made a pass, went down, tore her ACL, out for the season. So in your mind, so when you think about when rates went up, right? We were told that rates weren't going to go to 4.875 till the end of the year. We knew rates were going to go up. We were like, that's okay. You know what I mean? Like gradually that'll go up. Business will stay steady. And then all of a sudden, the beginning of the year, boom, and to me, that's like my point guard got, her ACL starts, it's gone. Right. And we're all sitting here going, what? And some of people probably are in the business going, I've never seen rates this high. Right. But the reality is, okay, it is what it is. What am I going to do? Right.
Yep.
I don't have a point guard. So who's my next person? Who am I going to train up to go into that position? Which is the same thing I thought about what we're doing, in our industry. It's like, okay, well, it is what it is. I'm going to still do the things that I've always done. People are still going to buy homes. And I didn't think of the results as much. And I think we get so caught up on results instead of going, okay, if I want to win this game, what are the things we're going to do in practice to try to win, right? How are we going to prepare our team to win? And it's the same thing with this. What am I going to do? Well, I'm going to still prospect. I'm still going to be consistent. I'm going to call my clients. And as we saw, as time went on, then we had another issue. People got into debt. Well, there's another opportunity. Like what opportunities do you have in any market? But if your head is down and you're feeling sorry for yourself, and I know a lot of people, like I was in the grocery store and there was a loan officer that I saw, and he said to me, he goes, Paul, I'm going to have my greatest month. And I go, what's that? And he goes, 3 loans. And I'm like, in my head, I was like, well, that's average, but okay, but if that's your greatest month. But then he followed up and said, gosh, my wife doesn't even know it, but I'm done by 11 o'clock every day.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, what? But that, I think that's what happened. It gave an excuse to a lot of people to not work because they said, you know what? No one's calling me. Rates are high. There's no business out there. You know what I mean? So I'm just not going to work. And we know what happens, right? We learned this, like what the action you take now, you're going to see that result 90 days from now, right? So, no matter what the market is, no matter what the circumstances, there's always going to be an opportunity. And it's those people who take that opportunity are going to be the ones that continue to win.
And I'm going to break this down because I want to talk about the 130 families you served last year and where they came from and how you did it. But before that, I want to go into so you get in to be a loan officer. Failure is not an option. You're walking away from a winning career. Your son's 10 years old and you're in a new town where you know nobody. And you're like, I'm just going to get 3 face-to-faces and get scrappy and figure it out. You get going as a loan officer and have some success. When did coaching come into play for you as a loan officer? And what was the biggest benefit for you personally once you got coached?
Well, you were my first coach.
I wasn't sure. You
were.
Me.
You were my first coach. And it was you. I'm so bad at years, but you said it was in 2013, which 13 is my lucky number. So I was connected with you in 2013 and we were in manager coaching. And it was the same thing. I looked at you like I looked at top coaches, like, okay, I'm going to go learn. She has a lot of success. What is she doing? Right? Because I knew that if I just knew what to do, I would do it. Some people need to learn what to do, but then they need high accountability. I've never had to have high accountability. myself as high accountability. I hold myself highly accountable. And so I was like, I got to learn what Shayla's doing because she is kicking butt and she's leveraging and she continues to grow. And I think I was at a place where I needed to add somebody on my team. And I wasn't sure, like we all get like, no, gosh, I don't know how I'm going to do that. You know what I mean? How are they going to do it like I do it? You know, all those things that go through your head, you know, so I wanted to learn, you know, and I've always been a learner. So that was the first year that I got into coaching was with you.
And so, you know, you're a technician networker as your two primary and secondary archetypes. And so I'm glad you said what I really needed at that moment was not motivation. It was some tactical stuff and I would go do it. But what I had to overcome was probably this thought that nobody can do it as good as me. I'm not good at delegating. I like to keep control. I don't want to be at the mercy of somebody else. That's classic technician stuff. So in the beginning there with coaching, how did coaching help you break through to press your comfort zone as a technician to start building a team and delegating and do those things?
Well, it was just learning like what were the things that I needed to do, you know, and it's like, how do you leverage your time, right? How do you help other people? Like, well, one is like, who do you hire? Who's the right person to hire? I think that my best hire was Michelle, who's still working with me. She's been with me for 9 years. But it's like finding that person that loves to do the things you don't like to do. And she's really good with the paperwork and pre-approvals. And she works hard. She was a softball player. And that was the other thing that I loved about her. She was an athlete. And I've just always have had really good luck with people. She works dramatically hard. So I brought her on. And then Kelly Scott, who I'd worked with, like I actually brought her in the business many, many years ago. She was at a turning point in her career where she came into my office and she had only made $35,000 that year. And she's like, I don't think I'm going to be able to continue to do this. And it was that at that turning point where I was like, wait a minute. I mean, she knows what she's doing. She's really good with clients. She's a great problem solver, you know? And I was like, she would be great on my team because I could help her grow, you know, as far as helping her with prospecting and doing those things. But like, as I was a branch manager and I was growing that way, she could take some leads and I trusted her to do a really good job. So all of that came from, you know, getting into coaching and just kind of learning about what I needed in my business.
Well, and I remember clearly because with you trying to do everything and work in areas where you weren't as strong, but you're a competitor, so you're willing to do whatever it takes. Once you were like, okay, I'm now going to go back to being a team builder because that's what you are as a college basketball coach, is a team builder. It's putting aces in places, elevating people's strengths, getting them to be in the zone with where they fit. You then had to take on the mentality and mindset of, okay, if I find these superstars and they're on my team, I really have to own being a rainmaker. I have to own being a networker, going out and meeting people and doing what you're willing to do. Because the reason Kelly was stuck is she wasn't as comfortable being a rainmaker. Am I right? You're the networker.
Yeah, she was really comfortable inside, but she wasn't as comfortable going out and teaching classes and educating and doing all those types of things.
Yep. And so you firmly stepped into that role and took that responsibility and said, all right, if I got someone handling the paperwork and the pre-approvals, which aren't my favorite, and I got somebody who's really good technically with the clients, which you could do, but since Kelly's doing it, I better go make it rain.
Mm-hmm. And
you did that to a huge degree and still doing that to a huge degree. So you get involved. So we start Elevate down the road. So, and this is fun that you were like the first student, you were student one. When I brought coaching into Guild, Barry Horn was like, we need this. We need to coach at Guild. I said, well, we got to start with producing branch managers because producing branch managers have the toughest job and they have the impact to immediately impact others in their branches. So I had 2 groups of 10. I had 20 producing managers. 1 call a month, we focused on your production. 1 call a month, we focused on branch manager metrics. And we all started doing this together. And I think it was probably 2 years after that we started the first iteration of group coaching for loan officers. And then we officially launched Elevate as a full-on guild-run, guild-supported, guild top-producing LOs on guild's platforms of Salesforce and everything else. Was that in 2018 or 2017? Do you remember?
I think it was 17.
Okay. So 2017, we launched Guild. And of course, you're now a founding coach of Guild Elevate Coaching. And then I'm running the program at the time. And I think you were a head coach for level 4 right off the bat. And then in 2020 or 21, I move on to coach just branch managers. And you've been running Elevate ever since. What does Elevate Coaching look like now? How many students do we have? How many coaches do we have? What does the function of the program look like?
Yeah, we just closed open enrollment for this next semester, and we have 275 applications. And so we grew from last semester, we had like 230. And so our goal is to continue to grow. And what we've done is we've got 50 coaches now, and I don't know how many coaches did you start with? Do you remember? I know.
I want to say 9. Yeah. So 50 is a little bigger. I think was that that's a 10x or 5x.
But we've had, Guild has really supported the program because Barry's vision was to be the most coached mortgage company in the country. And so we've continued to do that. I think what's unique is that all of our coaches are in the field, they're doing business, and we coach to our own technology. And I know that's been a huge, transition for a lot of companies, and when you're out recruiting and talking to people, they'll say, gosh, we have so many tools, but I don't know how to implement them. And we had the same problem. Guild had the same problem with adoption. And so this was kind of a mechanism to not only help people grow their business, but to help them grow their business in an efficient manner and get adoption up on our technology. And I mean, I think what's really cool about where we are today is the gap of our loan officers versus loan officers outside of Guild, how many more loans we're doing per loan officer. And I think, it's been a thing that we've grown. Like, we do have a huge team, it's not, we've got Elevate coaches, but we've got Salesforce consultants helping individual loan officers implement that. We've got marketing. We've got social media, coaching to help people, because the industry is going to always change, right? And these are things that are uncomfortable. And so when it's uncomfortable, a lot of people don't want to do it. You know what I mean? Like, you got to drag them in. But I think having that coaching and having, people that have done it, have implemented it. So you're not just saying, you need to do this. Shayla, you need to do this. It's like, I'm doing this, and let me show you how it's affecting my business. And, it's been really great.
Well, a couple of things I want to say. First of all, I think it's the most high impact, high value coaching program at the most reasonable price in the industry. And I also think there's nothing like having a coach that works on the same platforms that you work on, that is selling the same products that you're selling, that's using the same flyers and the same CRM and the same video platforms that you're on. Because one thing I will tell you, you and I are super passionate about helping build Salesforce, and we continue to really, be active and loud about what it is that we need and want to see. When I first got coached, I would have a coach working at who knows what company, and they'd say, okay, well, you need to track this or that. And now you need to track this or that. And you need to have this or that report. And everything was some janky spreadsheet. And whatever homework I needed to get my coach, I literally almost had to have a full-time assistant just doing the homework and just tracking some, metric or report or creation of something that was all manual. And so there's just nothing like being able to say, oh no, the report's built for everyone, and you could see it instantaneously, and it's automatically live, and all the data is real-time feeding in from the LOS into your Salesforce and your lead trackers and your pre-approval trackers and all the conversion reports that you need and the agent reports that you need. So I think that's incredible. The second thing is, I think there's a lot of people in our industry that want to have a more fulfilling part of their career. You and I being two of those people. Like, the average loan officer is over 55 years old. The average loan officer has been doing this job for over 20 years. And so what I love about Elevate is it's given so many people an additional income stream as a coach, but also just a purpose in life. I know a lot of our producing loan officers that are coaches are still producing because they want to lead by example and elevate. And elevate is really their source of joy in their career. And they produce on the as a secondary joy, right? It's like traded. And then the third thing that I love, Paula, is there's nobody better that builds team and culture. And so for the 50 coaches that are in Elevate, I mean, I'm on the coaches chat. It blows up all day. The idea sharing, the help with each other, the referrals that are being passed, the team within a team. I mean, this is a bonded group that would take bullets for each other and have each other's backs. And I just think that feels really cool when you're going to be a student and you're on a call with 3 other people from around the country and you've got a coach that's somewhere. You get to build these like families within a family so that you really feel part of something. And I know it's a huge mission for you.
Yeah, I was at this last couple of years have really affected people we know in their mindsets. And we were at a sales rally and a gal came up to me from Florida and she was like in tears. And part of it was because she felt like she was on an island by herself. And I think that's been a huge thing, an impact that Elevate's brought is bringing people together. Like as much as they're learning, as much as they're implementing and growing, like not feeling alone in this industry, especially right now, and all the friendships they make, and that's part of Elevate too, is that we don't want to just elevate your business, but want to elevate your life and your relationships. And we were just on a Rhino call where we were announcing the Rhinos. She won the Rhino. And when she was talking about it, she was like, had I not had that conversation, had I not got into Elevate, I probably would be out of the business. So there's a lot of different things that happen throughout coaching that's just not about just growing your business, which is what I love.
Yeah, and the support of each other. And you can't hide in a small group. Mm-hmm. And I think more than ever, we need to all come out from hiding and we need to be very clear about where we're struggling and be around other people that are going through the same struggle and have a coach that is a couple steps ahead. They could say, I've been there and this is how you get there. The other thing is we need mentors for all different types of things, right? Mm-hmm. Like your branch manager or regional manager cannot be the end all be all and everything to you. You need a shoulder to cry on. You need somebody to pat you on the ass. You need somebody to kick you in the ass. You need somebody to commiserate with and to laugh with. And, we need all of those things. And it takes resource to say, I'm going to go put myself out there and I'm going to be able to be taken care of. There's a roadmap, there's curriculum, there's a process and a plan. I just need to raise my hand in the air, surrender, and push my comfort zone, continue to expand my comfort zone. So last thought on Elevate, what's your mission? What do you want to see happen for the students that are in Elevate?
Well, I want to see them adopt and get more efficient and have more time to do the things that they want to do in their business. I mean, if they are more efficient and they want to prospect more and they want to build and grow and be a top performer, great. If they want to have more time in their life, to do some of the things that they want to do in their life, if it's spending time with their kids, if it's Jason Jacobs golfing. I mean, I like to golf, like whatever that is. I mean, that's been part of how I've been able to do some of the things I've been doing is by adopting the technology and getting really efficient, which has given me the time to pour into Elevate and still do business. I think people are sometimes get so afraid of it, but the good part about it is it does give you time back in your life. And it also, gives you, it's just like when you are looking at a list of people to call, like you are fishing in the hole instead of just throwing the net out there. Right. And yep. I think that's what we're seeing is people growing in their business. They're happier. I mean, even during the worst time, like I would say to the coaches, I'm like, hey guys, how's everybody doing? Like their spirits, you know what I mean? Because I'd be talking to recruits that are really down. Right. And the coaches are like, God, they're good. They're positive, I couldn't ask for anything better than that, is that they had a direction. I think the last thing too, I would say is top performers have a systematic approach in doing their business. Any great coaching program that has won over and over again, they have a systematic way of doing their business. You always had a systematic way. You used Excel spreadsheets. Well, I'm going to tell you, I was like, Excel what? Like that was like the worst thing for me to do. What? So when Salesforce came in and I was helping Gemma, build it out, my mind was like, you got to be kidding me. Every single person could be a top performer, could be a top producer. They don't have to come up with the system. They don't have to spend time building out an Excel spreadsheet. It's all they have to do is feed the machine and then go to their list, and they have everything that the top 1%ers have. So that was like our other mission was like, if I can help people engage and adopt in this, there's no way their business isn't going to grow. There's no way that they're going to have less stress. I mean, that's the other thing is less stress because you know what's going on in your business. And when you're operating with less stress, you're a better loan officer.
100% a better loan officer. So on my Rainmaker training, I always talk about five skill sets that a Rainmaker must do. Number one, have a Rainmaker mindset. I'm a leader, not a helper. I make it rain. I generate referrals. That's my number one job. Every day, I got to go out and generate referrals. Number two, I'm going to be bold. I'm always going to lead with my heart, say the thing I want to say, and ask for the business or ask for the next step. And there's always a next step. Number three, I'm going to book 2 appointments every day. Now, that's my Shayla standard. If I am a salesperson, I make calls to book appointments. And if I'm booking 2 appointments every day, that's 10 people a week. I don't care if they're all pre-approvals or they're all pre-quals or they're all realtors or they're all, attorneys. You're seeing people, but the last 2 things is I track everything and I have a plan. And that's exactly what you're talking about, a systematized way of doing that. So, you talk a lot about Rainmakers or technicians really want to be efficient and you love efficiencies. And you were a networker, still are a networker, which means you know a ton of people. You can meet a lot of people, but networkers usually struggle in taking their big network and actually converting it to dollars. A lot of networkers have a hey girl sell mode. They walk around and they go everywhere. Hey girl, hey guy, what's up, bro? But they don't actually convert. So I want to talk about what was the secret sauce for you being a technician who wants efficiency, who struggled with delegation, who just kind of like launched into that, a networker. Like, how did you put it all together to actually continue to grow like you did, into 100 million over and over again? And now you do it for other people.
I used networking to give me an opportunity to help other people's business. So if I wanted to come in and help you grow your business, I had to come in with something, so that's where the learning and the technician and the teaching, right, comes into place. And the plan, like my plan has always been is like, how can I help them with their business? I've got to get to know them like we all need to do. But I always had in the last 5 minutes of our meeting, something that I brought to them, something that I wanted, whether it was market information, whether it was a tool, whether it was a new product. And I listened to see what it is they needed to help them grow their business. Maybe it was a class I was going to teach, but it was always something I was going to give to them. And I never, thought like, what are they going to give me? My whole thing was, what am I going to help them? How am I going to help them? Because we know that if we do that and truly do that, it always comes back. And that's how I grew my business, was just by helping others grow their business.
Be a giver's gain. I'm so glad you brought back the teacher and learning and you're weaving that in, because I wrote this loud and clear here that your identity as a salesperson from day one has been a teacher. Mm-hmm. You, even as a coach, were going to clinics to learn how to teach, not just to learn, but learn it so well that you can teach it. And I think that's what made you an incredible student from the day I met you, is you were watching me coach to not just get it, but then learn how to coach it with others. That's been your mindset from day one. Right. So for anybody that's listening and sees themselves as a teacher, that's what they're called to do, this is just a huge asset in your business. And you just need to step into the visibility and step into the light and offer to teach people, because it makes a big impact. So you were telling me earlier that technology was really the supercharger for you to take your technician abilities, your networking and willingness to call people, but the technology and the adoption of that is what really elevated you to huge heights. So tell me about that.
The technology part is what, like I said before, was giving me more time back in my business so I could prospect more. But, as soon as, we could have people apply online, I mean, think about it. What's your name? What's your social security? I mean, like those types of questions for me didn't build the relationship, right? So, I took very little time. I was telling you this earlier, very little time when I first got on the call with somebody, but it was really like, hey, Shayla asked me to give you a call and said that you wanted to get pre-approved. So tell me what your current situation is. And that's all I would say. That's it. And if you, whatever you say, like I would hear them, okay, I just went through a divorce, or my credit's not here, or I'm a first-time home buyer. I just let them talk. And before I had technology where I had the system, I would just write my notes down, right? And then I would say, the next step is to fill out an application. Would you like me to send your application? 99.9, they're like, yes, right? Yep. So using that technology, so I wasn't taking the time, an hour or whatever, just to ask them their name. And so it allowed me to get off the phone quickly. They'd go apply online. I'd be doing other things in my business, preparing to teach a class, calling more people, talking to realtors. And then when the application came in, then it was about making sure that application was complete. And a lot of loan officers, I mean, even to this day, when I turn it into Michelle, everything is complete on there. I don't put fees in there, but everything else. And that's where you're asking good questions and you're structuring your file. And then after I get done with that, I use the technology where I task her through the system of exactly what we're going to do. And so little things like, the client tells you, hey, Paula, I'm not going to be in town when we close. I'll be in California, but my wife will be here. And in the past, when I didn't have a systematic way of telling Michelle, you get off the phone, you're like, oh yeah, I got to tell Michelle that. The phone rings and you're on to the next thing. And all of a sudden you get to the end of the month and Michelle has docs out and it's like docs are out and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. They've got to go to California too.
Right.
So then so that takes time, right? When you hear loan officers say, I always got to get back into my files because there's miscommunications, right? Well, that doesn't happen anymore because when I send her that task of pre-approval purchase and I put the bullet points in there, that is absolutely in there. Hey, husband's going to be in California, da, 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 da. And so if I do a great job that way, I never have to get back into my files. And the closings are good. We get our good ratings and it allows me to do other things. So if you're a loan officer and if you're doing that, you have that systematic approach and you're leveraging technology in your business, you should have better files. You should have, because I'm not interrupting Michelle, not having those interruptions, she's not making mistakes because she can stay focused on what she's doing as well. So that's what really helped me.
One file at a time, one client at a time. Let's talk about your ability to convert, people that you made out in the world through networking to actually win-win partnerships. How are you using the technology to stay top of mind and to actually get the conversion?
Just again, like one of the things we brought in a while ago, and a lot of companies have it, is just HomeBot. Just that's a technology piece that we know agents don't stay in touch with their past clients. And being able to teach that product, right, using that technology to help them stay in touch. And I'll give you an example. I had one real estate agent, Hartwell, who I'd worked with for years. And I kept trying to tell him that he needs to get HomeBot. Well, his pushback was, Paula, that's coming from me and it's not correct and I don't want it. And I said, okay, but it doesn't really matter because Redfin, Zillow, all of these, Realtor.com, none of them are absolutely correct. That's why they need you, right? But you need to know when they're looking. So a year ago, I was up at his house and he said to me, I got to talk to you. And I go, what about? And he goes, Paula, I had 3 people text me and ask me if I'm still in the business. And I look at him, I'm like, so you ready for HomeBot? And he's like, yes. And so we get him into HomeBot, and him and I closed 5 deals last year. And previously, the last couple of years, because he's working with an attorney and doing some different types of business, we're friends, but we weren't really closing very much business. But it was through that technology and helping him with it. And then I got 5 deals, right? And he was busy. So it's just, leveraging different things, teaching people, educating people, because we know real estate agents, they have just as much difficulty making changes and being consistent. They're like all over the board all the time, unless they're a top producer that have created systems. So using our technology to help them systemize their business is what's helped me grow.
And last thing I want to ask on this is, because follow-up is a problem for a lot of people, and especially for a networker. They get a lot of people's business cards, they shake a lot of hands, and then, they've maybe met somebody once, but they haven't followed up for 3 months or 6 months, and they haven't got leads or whatever. So how are you using Salesforce to take a meeting and a business card and turn it into a paycheck?
It comes down to discipline. It's like saying, every time I meet somebody that I want, and we know, like, you can go to a networking event, my goal is meet 3 people that you really want to follow up with.
Yep.
And you get their information. But as soon as I get back to the office, I don't look at emails. I don't do anything. I put them in. I get them in the system. And, a lot of people are like, oh, I'll let my assistant do it. Right. But the problem is you were the one that was there. You had the conversation. And it's not just putting them in there. It's making some notes of that conversation. Right. And then tasking yourself, if you said, I'm going to call you next week, how many times have we done this? Where the next week, and now it's 3 weeks, now we're embarrassed, so we don't do it, right?
Yep.
But if you put them in there and you write a couple notes, task yourself, maybe your system is, this is going to be a Monday call for me, or it's going to be a Tuesday call for me. So you task yourself and it comes back up. And if you're talking to a lot of people, as networkers do, you could see a name and go, who's that?
Yeah.
What? But if you write a couple notes down and then you go back into that system, you're like, oh yeah, their kid plays soccer. They like to go to Hawaii, whatever it was that you talked about. You can pick up that conversation and now it's easy, right? And people love to know that you are listening, and we do listen, but true networkers that are all over the board, they remember some things and they miss some things. And so, and I'm that way, having those notes in there help me have better conversations, and it helps me connect way faster. And I'm not afraid to make that call.
Well, Paula, this was fantastic. And you can see that we could just go for hours, because I want to dissect all the systems underneath. But I think the key themes are, number one, you're competitive. You are willing to do what it takes. You did not want to fail. And you had your son, those little eyes looking at you in a new town, and you made it work. And from the day one, you were out to help other people. You are a true giver. I see it every single day. You get on the phone with loan officers all around the country for Guild. You talk to recruits for Guild. You help people understand where they're stuck, and you ask really powerful questions. But you're going in as a teacher, and you're consistently learning. And so I just want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, I'm so grateful that we get to work together. We spend often many nights at 6 p.m. downloading and coming up with ideas. And I'm so much better because I get to work side by side with you. And I'm so proud of the life and the business that you've built. I can't wait to be with you and Jen in Nevis.
That's right. It's coming up.
Next trip. It's going to be fun. And I'm really, really excited for the 275 people that have invested in themselves and have said, you know what? It's time for me. This is my time. I'm going to stretch my comfort zone. I'm going to step into visibility. I'm going to ask for accountability. I'm going to do the things that I know I need to do. And I'm going to grow and I'm going to learn. And so I'm really excited for this next semester of Elevate Coaching. And thank you for being the leader of it.
You bet. Thanks for having me on your call.